If you're a salon or spa owner, cosmetology school gave you the skills to serve clients, but it didn't prepare you to run a business. You probably thought ownership would mean freedom, but instead you're working harder than ever, barely paying yourself, and worried that everything's going to fall apart the second you step away. Welcome to the station, where we give you real strategies, systems, and structure so you can step into the CEO seat where you belong. Hey friends, welcome back to the station. This is the podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to step into true leadership, build profitable systems, and finally run a business that gives you your life back. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my amazing co-host, co-founder, and bestie here with me today. Hey Chandra, how are you?
Hello, doing good.
Awesome. Well, today we are going to talk about something that every single salon and spa owner, and I mean every single one of us, is going to face at some point, and that is team members leaving. Maybe it's retirement, maybe it's that clean 2 weeks notice, maybe it's the sudden I quit, or maybe it's the termination that you have to make as the owner. Whatever the reason is, turnover, it's inevitable. But the thing is, most owners, they don't have a real plan for it. So when it happens, it feels like their entire salon business is just unraveling overnight. But here's the truth. Departures, they don't have to derail your business. If you handle them with structure and with strategy, you can keep your salon stable, you can protect your culture, and honestly, sometimes you can even come out stronger on the other side. So before we get in too deep, I want to share a story about one of our BBA members because this is exactly the kind of situation that can make or break a salon and something that we deal with when we're coaching all the time. So before she came to the Beauty Biz Agency, she had one of those moments that literally every one of us secretly dreads, right? Out of nowhere, I mean, literally, no warning, one of her top stylists just walked out. No notice, no conversation, poof, just gone. And like most owners would, she went straight into that panic mode. She was scrambling to get appointments moved, making late night calls to clients, and stepping back behind the chair way more than she had planned. She was doing all this while trying to hold everything else together, right? It wasn't just their schedule that took a hit. The ripple effect was immediate. The energy inside of her salon shifted overnight. Her team felt very uneasy. Clients could feel the inconsistency. And honestly, it took her months to fully bounce back from that one unexpected exit. So when she joined our mastery program, we knew we couldn't just hope that it was never going to happen again. We needed to make sure that she was ready when it did happen again. So we built out a real strategy exit. We did redistribution scripts that made every client feel cared for, front desk training so communication was very smooth and confident, and a warm folder of potential hires already lined up. And sure enough, when the time came and another stylist eventually left, it was a completely different story. There was no chaos. There was no frantic late night client calls, no sleepless nights trying to figure out how she was going to cover the gaps that were there. The clients were taken care of. Her team felt secure. And for the first time, she got to actually lead through this process instead of just trying to survive it. Same exact situation, two completely different outcomes. The only difference was the second time she had a plan in place. Chandra, you and I both know this situation and how it feels. It's inevitable with salon ownership, right? Tell me a bit about the first time that you had someone just quit unexpectedly and the chaos that kind of ensued when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to her situation. I mean, we didn't really know what to do. We didn't know how to handle it. We didn't know if the clients knew. We didn't know if other employees knew. It was kind of one of those things where you just feel like you sort of feel like it's a personal attack in a way the first time it happens, I think, because you felt like you had a handle on everybody, and then all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? And I think that that's probably the hardest part to go through when you have that happen. Is just realizing, like, at the end of the day, it is kind of just business, and you just need to have those systems in place and handle it in the right way, like what you were talking about, so that things aren't crazy and chaotic, and you don't feel like, somebody just shot you and your whole life just ended, temporarily, because that's what it's like when the first time that happens to you, I think, especially if you have a small team. because you feel very close knit and tight. And at that time, I did have a small team. So it was a pretty big impact to us that very first time. You never forget that.
No, you never forget that first time. And I think that's why it's important that we talk about this because there's so many real parts that go into play, right? This is where so many salon owners just get blindsided, I think. When somebody walks out, it's never just about the person leaving. It is that ripple effect that hits everything inside of your business. Your clients are always going to feel it, regardless of what you do, they're going to feel it somewhat. Your team definitely feels it. Your numbers are going to feel it. It shakes your energy as the owner. It steals your peace as the owner. And it does that in a way that people who aren't in this industry, they will just never understand it, I don't think. Our industry is just different. One of the hardest parts about this is that it usually happens in several different ways, or it can happen in several different ways, right? It either happens, I think, when everything's already moving like 100 miles an hour, when the books are completely slammed, your team is already stretched thin, you're stretched thin, and you are juggling a million things in the air, or it's the complete opposite. Things finally start to seem like steady, right? The salon has a good rhythm going. You're finally able to breathe again as the owner, and then boom, something like this happens. Either way, it knocks the wind out of you. It doesn't matter which side of the coin that you're on. It's going to knock the wind out of you. It's never convenient. It never happens when you actually have the time or the space that you need to deal with it, I feel like. How that moment plays out usually comes down to one thing: how much structure you already have in place in your business. That's literally all it boils down to. Because those first 24 to 48 hours after somebody leaves, that's the moment that is going to either shake absolutely everything to its core, or it's going to steady your ship. And most owners, they just don't realize how much those first hours matter until they're just standing right in the middle of it. Here's the thing. Not every exit is going to hit you the same way. Some of you guys haven't been through all of these exits that we're going to talk about today. A retirement is different than a 2-week notice. A 2-week notice is different than somebody who just doesn't show up one day. And all of those feel different than a termination that you had to make, because those are really, really difficult. So I think we should talk about all of them today, Chandra. Let's start with retirement. When somebody retires, you usually know it's coming, right? You've probably thought about it maybe for months even. But even then, it's still hard because it's not about just moving those clients around on the schedule. It's the weight of losing someone who has been a fixture in your salon for probably years. And if you don't have an intentional plan for what the transition is going to look like, it can leave a hole way bigger than just a chair. It affects so many other things. Then you've got the 2-week notices. Ugh, I absolutely hate these, to be honest. And I think this is the one that kind of tricks a lot of salon owners because it gives you just enough time to think that you've got it handled, but not nearly enough time to actually build a plan from scratch. 2 weeks, they go by really, really fast in this industry, in life, really. If you don't already have those systems in place, you are going to spend that whole window of those 2 weeks just trying to figure it out instead of moving with intention. And that's the key word. Then you've got the sudden quit, right? That one right here. This is where people's leadership, it either holds together or it completely cracks. This type of moment will rock almost every salon owner out there. I don't care how long you've been in the business. It's that punch in the gut feeling that just, it throws everything off, Chandra. Everything, right? And honestly, I think this is where not having a plan can be the most dangerous because panic starts to spread really, really fast. It affects every single person on your team, including you. And if you don't get a handle on it really quickly, it can turn a positive culture into a nightmare, like in the blink of an eye. Chandra, we coach owners on creating structure for all of these different scenarios that we've talked about: retirement, 2-week notices, the sudden quits. In fact, we even coach them on how to handle walkouts with multiple team members. I think these are important to focus on right now. We will get to termination in a second. None of these are easy to deal with. But when you have a plan of attack in place, it definitely makes it easier. In my opinion, I think the sudden quits are the ones that rock people's worlds the hardest. But I'm curious to see what you feel and how you feel about those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sudden quit definitely is the one that is, it rocks the team, it rocks you, it rocks everything the most. I also agree though that sometimes the 2 week notices I feel like can be almost more detrimental because I feel like during that time period, it's like the team can sometimes get kind of weird, or the clients, you're trying to transition people, you're trying to work with the stylist who's leaving. And I feel like sometimes that's even more challenging than the sudden quits, at least from what I've experienced. But yeah, either one is tough.
If the Especially if the 2-week notice is like not a nice 2-week notice, right? Like if there's some animosity in there, you just don't know what those people are going to do inside your business, right? Have you had that happen, and how did you handle that?
Yeah, I have had that happen. And it's kind of like the first time it happened. After that, we have a plan now for these things, right? But before, I had somebody who gave me 2 weeks notice. I was told she was leaving to go do something else entirely, but that wasn't true. She was leaving to go do her own thing, which we support that if you do. So it was kind of weird, but it was one of those things. We were letting her work that 2 week notice, and she was infiltrating other team members and saying things to them during that last 2 weeks that were not good for our culture. She was saying things to clients that were not good for our culture, trying to get them to move and follow her, but saying bad things, right? And so I think we didn't know all that happened until she was gone. And that's the part that's really hard in those situations, because once they're actually gone, you find out they were causing all these problems behind the scenes and you didn't know. So now we are just very open and transparent about the whole thing. Like, if you're going to go do this, this is our plan. If you're going to go do that, this is our plan. Like, we don't hide anything. And I think that's what a lot of owners do, is they try to dance around this subject with their team and not really let their team know how things like that will be handled. And so we're very, very transparent now. And I think that makes our team feel safer if that's the situation that they're going to do, instead of feeling like, some big backlash is going to happen just because they want to move on to something else. So that's definitely what saved us from that. But those situations can be messy, especially if you're the type of owner who is not transparent in that way and does not tell people, if you want to leave and go do this, this is how we handle it on our end. This is what we do. This is our plan, so that they leave you on good terms. Half the time we've had people now, if they've ever left to go do that, come back, and it's been fine because they wanted to try it, and they tried it, and they were like, this sucks, I love it, I want to come back, and they come back. So how you handle it, I think, makes a big difference for that too.
Absolutely. It's so important not to burn bridges. And I'm not trying to speak negatively to any salon owners out there, because I've made this mistake before in my professional life as well. But one of the things that salon owners are notorious for, commission salon owners specifically, is they get that 2-week notice and they're like, cut the head off the snake immediately. I don't need you. See you. Bye. And I think we've got to figure out a way that there can be common ground, a way to where our employees can be honest with us if, like you said, they are leaving, to go start on their own or do whatever, the type of transparency that you have, that I have, so that they can get that paycheck, they can provide for their family, they can do the things that they need to do, right? Like, that's the way it should happen. Instead of owners just getting so freaked out and so paranoid that they're stealing all the client information, and I can't have them do this and I can't have them do that. So just get your stuff and leave. Just go today. That is going to cause a lot more issues in your business if you handle it that way. And that's something that you really need to think about. I understand client information is confidential and it needs to stay in your system, but there are things that you can prepare for. There are things that you can create so you can make sure that everything is handled in a way that it needs to be handled. Right, Chandra?
Yeah, for sure. That's what we do now.
Yeah. So we have one scenario left that we have to talk about, and that is terminations. I think these are tough because they are 100% on you, the owner. You're the one making the call. And even when you know deep in your heart that it's the right call, it usually doesn't feel good. And it can definitely shake the entire room that you're standing in, right? Because the second that it happens, your team's eyes, they are on you. I mean, on you. They are paying attention to how you show up, how you speak, how you carry yourself. They can feel everything. And if you don't lead that moment with clarity and with confidence, they're going to start filling in the blanks by themselves. I think that's the part that a lot of owners miss. It's not just about the person leaving, it's about the story that your team tells themselves when all of this is happening. If they sense panic, what are they going to do? They're going to panic, right? If they sense gossip, they are going to run with it. That's how they're going to handle themselves. But if they sense leadership, if they can tell that you have a handle on everything going on, they're going to stay grounded. Chandra, I know that you've seen this a lot as well. When leadership doesn't control the narrative, the team is going to, right? What kind of damage can that do if it isn't handled and if it isn't handled really, really quickly?
Well, I mean, I think that you lose trust with your team. They don't respect you if you don't handle those things well. They start to, you know, be deflated, demotivated. They start to not care anymore. And then you have to kind of rebuild everything from scratch all over again and try to win all that back. Once you start actually leading that narrative and making sure that everything is, going the way that it should go in those situations, they get it. They understand. Most of the time when you're terminating someone, if you have a strong team, your team is happy that you're doing it because that person was probably causing problems. There was probably things going on. And when you let those things fester, your team gets frustrated too. So it has to be, you have to handle it either way. You've got to take care of it because if you let it fester, it will upset the situation. It will upset your culture. And if you handle it in the wrong way, it will upset your culture, right? So really finding that middle ground of leading through that and making sure, you're doing it from the best interest of everybody and doing it in that way will keep everything together.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I just want to say this. I think we talked about a lot of scenarios here, but I think these are all areas where I think this is how salon owners mess up a lot of the times. And I think it happens because we get blindsided. Even if it's a 2-week notice, we're still blindsided because it goes by so quickly, right? Retirement, blindsided because we're still losing a top producer, probably. Things like this kind of hit out of nowhere. And what happens? The emotions, they just take over. We are emotional human beings, and that's what happens. So a lot of salon owners, what they do, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, they vent to their teams, or they just take it so personally that it affects them so bad. And they start to scramble. They start telling themselves, okay, I'm just going to power through this. I'm going to do whatever it takes. But before they even realize it, the entire situation is in a very negative aspect, and it's a way bigger situation than it ever needed to be. Chandra and I have seen this happen 100 times. It's not the person leaving that does the real damage 9 times out of 10. It's what happens after the fact in those next 24 to 48 hours. If you don't hold steady, things will completely fall apart. And I'm sure a lot of you out there listening are nodding your heads right now. This is so true. I've had this happen, right? Because your team is watching you like a hawk every single move you make. The clients are picking up on the shift, the feelings in the room. That's when every single crack in the systems that you think you have show themselves face first. And that's where you see a really big difference. The line between the businesses that stay steady, that handle this with profession, with care, with love, with all of those things that they can do, right? And the ones that just spiral out of freaking control. You cannot be emotional beings when you're doing these things, when you're going through this. You have to have a plan. You have to control the room. I don't mean micromanage, I mean control the room. You have to control the tone, because when you don't, the situation, it is going to run right over you and it is going to hit you like a freaking bus. It's all there is to it. Chandra, for the owners that are out there listening right now and they're like, yep, been through this a million times. What's the first thing that you want them to know before they start building a system in order to create that plan that they need?
I think the first thing is really you have to just not get emotional. You have to look at it from a different lens and see what's really going on and how you're handling things and just stop and pause. Because I think that's what happens is they do get emotional, they flip out, or they do things that are even out of their character because they're just having they're snapping because they're just getting emotional about the situation. And I think in order for you to build a strong system, in order for you to put that in place, you need to really focus on your culture, focus on what you want your culture to be like, and really sit down and get real with how you're handling things. Because I think, like you said, the biggest thing isn't the person leaving. It's what happens after they've left. It's what happens during that time period that they're leaving. And all of that kind of falls on your leadership and how you handle it and what you're going to put in place. I think that's the biggest thing to really start looking at if you're going to start putting those systems in place to keep this kind of stuff under control.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as I was coming up with this topic for this episode, or you and I had discussed it, but I was thinking about because now in our program we have all of these systems built out for salon owners. We coach them how to go through it. But I was thinking about how I created my system in the first place. And for me, I had to get really raw and real with myself. And I had to pull back all of those layers off of the onion. How did I really act? How did I really react? What emotions did I feel usually when each scenario would happen? And so I would write those down and then write down my reaction. And when I took that piece of paper and I looked at it and I read it, nobody else was in the room, but I was embarrassed with myself for the thoughts that came into my head, right? Like it really, really bothered me. And so when I started seeing how emotional I actually was, and then I turned that lens into the professional business owner, boss that I needed to be, it wasn't that hard to come up with the plan and the structure that needed to take place. Because, like you said, like I said earlier, 99% of it was just my emotions taking over. That's all it was. Look, turnover is going to happen. There's no avoiding that part. But whether it feels like the absolute end of the world or just a bump in the road, that's completely in your hands as the owner. That's why you have to build systems. It's not for when things are easy. Systems are for when things get really, really hard. Chandra, how important are systems in your business, regardless of what they're for?
You can't, you don't even have a business as far as I'm concerned if you don't have systems because it's not going to run, it's not going to grow, it's not going to do any of the things it needs to do. So I would say they're the most important thing in your business.
100%. Without question, the most important thing in your business. Systems will allow you to do everything that you've always dreamt of doing. Get out from behind the chair, get out of the service provision role, scale your business, build profitability into things like all of those require systems. Okay, let's shift gears for just a little bit. We've talked about why these exits hit so hard and what actually happens inside the business when they do. Now, I think that Chandra and I want to give you a sneak peek of some practical stuff that you can do. Because at the end of the day, the only way to make these moments less heavy is to build that structure around them before they ever happen again. This is one of those things that's not really fun to think about. It's not exciting in any way, shape, or form. But when you've got it locked in, it's going to save you so much freaking stress later on. That's something that all of our BBA clients tell us. Like, this is stressful building these systems. And we're like, we have most of it built for you. So you've got it pretty easy. But it's the stress that is alleviated down the road that makes it worth it. Because when somebody leaves, you don't rise to the occasion. That's not what this is about. You literally just fall back on your systems. That's what it should be about. And if those systems don't exist, well, that's when everything just starts spinning and spinning and spiraling and doing all the things. So the first thing that Chandra and I want you to build is your exit communication plan. And I know that sounds fancy, but it's literally just clear language. One script for clients, one script for your team. That's it. You need something that you can grab and use without overthinking it. Because when you get emotional, you overthink everything. So when those emotions are high, you're not going to have to try to find those right words. You already have them. Your clients don't need every single detail. They just need to feel confident and taken care of. Your team doesn't need any of the drama. They need clarity, consistency, and direction from you as the owner. The second thing is a redistribution plan. If one of your top stylists walks out tomorrow, do you know where the clients are going to go? Not in theory, like, do you actually have it mapped out? Who can take their specialty services? Who can absorb their top clients without burning out? How will that be communicated at the front desk? Because in that moment, if you don't already know those answers, panic's going to take over and you're probably going to lose some of those clients that you could have kept. But if you have it mapped out ahead of time, you can pivot in literal seconds instead of it taking you weeks to figure it out. The third thing that we want you to have is a warm recruiting pipeline. Every single salon and spa owner needs this. You should not be starting from scratch every time somebody leaves. I mean, yes, you start from scratch, but you should have a list. You should always be collecting resumes, connecting with stylists, keeping your eyes open. This doesn't mean that you hire every single week. It just means that you are ready to hire. Those systems are in place. You have a list of people that you can reach out to. So when somebody exits, you've already got that intact, right? You don't have to scramble to create job posts and just pray that somebody applies. Next, and this is a big one, you have to separate that emotion from leadership. We talked about this. You're human. You are going to feel it. You might be hurt. You might be disappointed. You might just be straight up ticked off or exhausted. It's normal, but the way you show up to your team matters way more than how you feel. And I know that doesn't sound good, but it's the truth. If they see calm, they feel calm. If they see you leading, they are going to follow. That doesn't mean that you don't feel it, guys. It doesn't. It just means you don't lead from that place of emotion or feeling. And then once a year, Chandra and I want you to run a what if drill. This is so important. We do this in my studio twice a year, but if you can just do it once a year, you are going to be way ahead. Literally sit down and say, what would we do if somebody gave notice today? Who's going to talk to the clients? Who's going to cover their books? How does the team find out? This kind of prep, this is what is going to keep owners from being blindsided over and over and over and over and over again. Because the truth is, the goal is never going to be to avoid turnover. We can't. The goal is to make it less disruptive in your business, period, right? It's to keep your business steady no matter who walks out the door. And when you build those layers of structure, you stop reacting to any type of exit like it's an emergency, and you start handling them like a true CEO would. Sorry, Chandra. I started talking there and I couldn't stop.
You're good.
I know that you have helped me walk. I know that you've helped me walk a lot of owners through all of the processes like this. If somebody is out there listening right now and they just had somebody leave, like it just happened recently, what is the first thing that you would tell them to do maybe right now today so that they can get on steady footing again and start preparing themselves to build the systems and structure that they need?
I mean, I think take a step back and look at that situation and exactly what happened throughout that, right? Like, did you have to scramble when they left and move clients around? Did you have to do damage control with your team? Like, really take a moment and just see, like, what was the worst thing so that you can start with working on that. Like, was it more detrimental to the team than anything? Okay, start creating your strategy and your plan for how you're going to deal with your team if somebody leaves abruptly or if something happens. I think really just, starting to put those things in place and start with, what's really caused you the most headache, what's really caused you the most stress in any of those situations, and just start with that.
I think that's great advice. I think that will give them a ton of answers that they need so they can start creating the scripts that they need, the what ifs, this is how it goes, the playbook that they are going to need for each and every situation. Best advice ever. Good job. All right. You guys know we love ending these episodes with a question that isn't always tied to what we're talking about today. I think it's important because as owners, you've got 100 things that are swirling around at any given time. And sometimes the question that's sitting on your heart isn't one that matches the topic of the day. So we're going to get into today's listener question. Chandra, here's the question. How do I handle it when my front desk keeps dropping the ball over and over again.
I don't know why I keep seeing this on Facebook lately too, all over the Facebook groups. I'm like, is everybody having like their front desk just going crazy or what's happening? But anyways, yeah, I mean, again, systems, like I don't know why like that's such a difficult concept for everybody to understand. But if your front desk is dropping the ball, it's probably because there's no systems in place for them to follow. There's probably no set guidelines, no set checklist, no things that are required of them to do. And then you probably forgot about your front desk, because I think that's what happens a lot in salons is they focus on the service providers and they forget about the people that are the support staff and paying attention to what they're doing and holding them accountable just like they do the other team members. So I think, start paying attention to them, start making sure that they're being held accountable for whatever requirements you have for them. I think with any situation like this, no matter what the position is, those are the answers right there. Like if you don't have those things in place, if you're not checking and holding people accountable, they're just going to drop the ball all day long. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And I just think it's funny because I've literally seen people asking this all over the internet lately about their front desk. So I don't know what's happening out there, but people need to get some systems.
Well, and I think if we want to be really honest about the situation when it comes to systems, we can turn this onto owners, right? Like if you don't have systems to hold your team accountable, you're right, Chandra, things are going to fall through the cracks. Things are going to be chaotic. They're going to be a mess. So let's ask the owners to think about this. If you don't have systems for yourself, what happens? You're living in chaos every single day. You aren't implementing everything. You're probably not growing. You are doing and living the same life that you have been living for the past who knows how long. That is how important systems are. I think when it comes to this listener question, something that people don't realize as salon owners is your front desk is either the backbone of your business or they are the hole in your boat. It's one of two things. There is no in between. And just like Chandra said, those systems are going to be so important. But when you are building them, they can't be gray systems. They need to be black and white systems, black and white expectations, clear systems, clear scripts, clear standards, clear expectations, right? You have to have that in your business. What we find when we're coaching salon owners a lot of time is there is so much gray area. I wouldn't even be able to work for some of them because I don't understand what's going on, or it's not written down. It's not documented. It's living in the owner's head. And there is no way employees can remember everything that you've said to them, even if you've said it 500 times. If you're saying something 500 times, but there's 550 million things that you're telling them, who could remember that? Like, that's not even fair to assume that they're going to remember that. Chandra, what is one shift that you've seen that made the biggest difference when systems were put into place in the front desk that really helped maybe one of our BBA members or a salon owner that you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think revenue boost. I think really putting in the systems of how they're scheduling appointments and how they're talking to clients on the phone as far as like add-on services and things like that. Like they can make so much more money in your business if you set those systems for them. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts that we've seen, in some of the salons that we've worked with is their front desk wasn't doing anything but just answering the phone and then sometimes cleaning. And it's like, that's not really helpful for anything. And they're getting paid sometimes a lot of money in some of the salons that we work with. So I think you've got to really put those systems in place for them to generate revenue and for them to really help build that client loyalty with how they're handling people on the phone.
Oh my gosh, I love that answer. And it's so funny because I was on the phone with my dad before we hopped on this podcast and we were just talking about this. I was telling him, Dad, every single person, my dad is a very smart businessman, but every single person in your business has to be generating revenue some way, somehow. If they're not, you don't need them. You literally don't need them. So every single person that works for you in your salon should be generating more and more revenue consistently. A lot of people ask Chandra and I how that's possible. It's very possible. It's very easy to set up. And it is mandatory as a business owner to make sure that every employee is generating revenue. So I am so glad that you brought that up, Chandra. All right, guys, here's the thing that we really want to drive home. Team members leaving isn't ever going to be a maybe. It's a win, right? When is it going to happen? That part is out of your control. But what happens next, that is completely in your hands. When you have real systems in place, clear communication scripts, that redistribution plan, a warm recruiting pipeline, strong leadership energy, turnover is going to stop feeling like an earthquake. It just becomes part of the rhythm of the business, and that's how it should be. The difference between panic and power isn't how loyal your team is, it's how prepared you are as the leader. And when you lead from a place of clarity instead of reaction, everybody's going to feel it. Your team, your clients, but most importantly, you're going to feel it. And I think that's really, really important. Listen, guys, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't have any of this stuff built out in my salon, don't worry. That's exactly why we created the Beauty Biz Agency. There are so many salons out there that don't have the systems and processes in place. You don't have to figure all of this stuff out on your own. Why? Why make it take so much longer than it ever has to? We have built the scripts, the systems, and the structure that is going to keep your salon business steady, even when the unexpected happens. So if you are ready to stop reacting and start leading, head on over to www.thebeautybizagency.com. You will find free tools, resources, coaching options, done for you systems to help you lead your business like a real CEO. And if this episode, if it spoke to you or it helped you in any way, please share it with another salon owner who needs to hear it. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review so other owners can find us. Really, really important. And we really, really appreciate it. Also, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss out on what we have coming up next. Chandra, how can our listeners keep up with everything that we've got going on at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Make sure you find us and follow us on social media at the Beauty Biz Agency on Instagram and Facebook, or the Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And make sure you check out our Facebook Live the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. Central Time. We would love to see you there and answer some of your questions on the air.
Absolutely. That's a wrap. You've been listening to the station where salon owners stop babysitting and they start leading like the CEOs they are meant to be. Until next time, lead through the hard moments with clarity, protect your culture at all costs, and stop letting turnover run the show. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger. If this episode lit a fire under you, don't just walk away and let it die out. Deep down, you already know where you want your business and your life to go. And the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a real plan to get you there. That's exactly what we help you build. So if you're ready to stop trying to figure it out on your own, head to thebeautybizagency.com and book your free strategy call. That call can give you the clarity that you've been needing and a real plan to move your business forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and the salon business you've been dreaming about is whether or not you're willing to take the action and the steps in order to build it.